You're listening to U Radio. Let your voice be heard. My name is Ryan Funk. You're on U Talk, a program dedicated to diversity, highlighting native-born and new Canadians' cultures and experiences. What is a Mennonite? Many may have a very different idea in their head. Andrew Unger is the creator of The Daily Bonnet, a satirical website that breaks down Mennonite culture and life. He recently had a book published called Once Removed, a humorous book about Mennonites which explores the real cost of progress. Andrew and I explore the Plautdietsch Code, Knacking, the mystery of Mennonites.
If you just Google it, if you go into Google Images and type in Mennonites, you're going to get pictures of people in women in long dresses and men wearing suspenders and horse and buggy. You get that sort of one sort of impression of what a Mennonite is. But Mennonites are as diverse as the entire population. You know, we range from the very conservative, like you'll see if you in the pictures that I just described, to, you know, completely blending in with the rest of society. I don't know if you want me to go into a whole like history of where Mennonites originated from or whatever, but
I mean, we can talk about that a little bit later. Maybe that'll feed a little bit into one of my topics. But yeah, Mennonites are incredibly diverse. I guess it's one of those things where it's a blanket creed, but within that, there's just so many different variations that you can find.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose some of the common aspects that all people who would self-identify as Mennonite would hold would be, pacifism and adult baptism. But otherwise, you know, in terms of like theology, the rest of it is pretty wide-ranging. And in terms of practice and things like that, and dress and all that stuff, it's pretty wide-ranging.
Now, I know for myself, just background-wise, when I'm looking at Mennonites and seeing other Mennonite families, you know, family-oriented, that's a big one as well.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna say, I hadn't, you know, thought of that, but that's definitely true. I was gonna say, when I was thinking about this earlier, I was thinking community oriented is another aspect. Family and community oriented, I think that's something that all Mennonites, from, you know, the very traditional conservative Mennonites to, you know, progressive Mennonites that live in the city, you know, have that aspect in common, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Mennonite culture is starting to get a little bit more, little more in the spotlight. I don't know if you saw the movie. I propose we don't see each other again after tonight.
Yes. Yes, I did see that. Yeah, there's this great scene. I don't know if I guess it's not a spoiler if I say it, but because it's not like crucial to the plot or anything. But there's a scene where they go to Morden, which also is a city with a high Mennonite population, and she's looking for. All she knows is his parents' names are Friesen, and she looks in the phone book, and it's like pages and pages of Friesens, so it doesn't help her anything.
When we're looking at Mennonites and some of the other cultures, there's a lot of similarities from the history. You know, Mennonites that came from Europe, moved away, lost their land, and kind of had to start fresh. And that's something that myself, just listening, looking at the history, we can really relate to that, to some of the refugee crisis that has happened over the past couple of years.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, I looked at, you know, my own grandfather. The one side of my family came to Canada in the 1870s, so they were immigrants, not refugees. But but the other side of my family, you know, my grandfather came to Canada when he was 5 years old in the 1920s, fleeing, you know, the aftermath of the Russian Revolution. So, you know, yeah, he came as a refugee, and the people that stayed there, you know, I have relatives also that stayed in the Soviet Union, and you know, didn't get out in time, you know, so to speak, and they were killed, executed, you know, for no reason, or sent to Siberia. But I have great uncles that were, you know, killed at that time. So yeah, definitely the refugee experience, we definitely have that in our Mennonite background.
That's even on my family. My grandfather, him and his sister and their mother, came, my great Oma, came over after World War II, after her husband was taken away, and yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy just looking about the history, and maybe that's something that some Mennonites maybe forget,
Yeah,
that we came from this place.
yeah, I know. You do see a lot of. I mean, I think Mennonites maybe more than some other. I don't know. It's hard to compare to other groups, but Mennonites are definitely like sort of obsessive about their own history and genealogy. There's the whole the Mennonite game, which is like you meet another Mennonite and you try to figure out how you're related. That whole thing. So I think Mennonites are to some degree interested in that, but I think we do have sometimes we do have a bit of that amnesia about our past and our history, and that now that we've been here in Canada for a while, maybe people's views on refugees has changed or something like that, and it shouldn't. We should realize this. We should be sympathetic and helpful, and realize that we all have struggles, and Mennonites have had struggles, and people helped us out. I've seen quotes of what Canadians, Canadians who already were living in Canada, were saying about Mennonite refugees in the 1920s, and they were saying a lot of very horrible, racist and prejudiced things about, my my grandfather, or his generation, anyways. And so those kind of unfortunately, you sometimes see those kind of prejudices come back up in our society, and I think if we can put that into a little bit of perspective and realize that people have said that about us too, so
hmm Yeah, just kind of having that empathy, that
yeah,
remembering that we came from that sort of place, or a lot of them, a
yeah,
lot of Mennonites, and I mean, some traveled across the world. It's not just here in Manitoba and Canada. You have Mennonites in the United States. You have them in South and Central America,
yeah,
which seems crazy.
yeah, all over the place. Yeah, yeah. I think in the 1870s, when the uh, Mennonite sent delegates to Canada to come check it out, they sent 12 people, and 8 decided they didn't like the land, and they went to the U.S., and 4 decided to like encourage their people back in Europe to come here. But so yeah, there's Mennonites all over the place, and they move for various reasons, usually for uh, religious reasons, but they moved all over the world.
hmm Yep. So you're involved in writing satire. What is it about Mennonite culture that you find the humor in?
Wow, yeah, that's there is a sort of a stereotype about Mennonites that we're kind of stoic and don't really very serious and don't really laugh a lot, but I don't think that that's really the case. I think I'm sure there's some people like that, but I think Mennonites have always had a sense of humor, at least in certain situations and certain. I think you kind of had to, you kind of have to use humor um, to kind of deal with or handle some of the situations that we've gone through in our history. I don't know if humor was sort of like a coping mechanism or something like that, but what do I've sort of rambled off the question there, but what do I find funny about Mennonites? I guess that was more like your question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
What do you find funny?
I mean, if you read the Daily Bannock, you'll see that I find all sorts of things funny, and it's everything from food and accent to church things, quirks. We're quirky. We've always been kind of outsiders wherever we've lived. We've kind of been outsiders, and so I think maybe that gives us a kind of we've developed quirks, and those are sort of fun to poke fun at, I guess.
So, if you could pick one thing from Mennonite culture that you could share with everyone, what would it be?
Wow. I think I maybe sort of alluded to it before, but I think, Mennonites have a real good sense of community, and we have our flaws. I would definitely say that we have our flaws, and that's something we can talk about too if you want. But Mennonites, they may not seem, I don't want to generalize here, but it can seem not so friendly at first. But I think once you're sort of part of that community, there's a real sense of pulling together and drawing to and coming together and helping each other out. So I would say community is something that maybe others could pass on to others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In terms of a potential negative, I would say stubborn, and I would put myself in that category. Stubborn as a mule. I know my whole family is that way. When we want to do something, you can't stop us.
That's probably true. Yeah. Maybe it's like, people joke about since Mennonites are traditionally pacifist, that since they never can use any form of physical violence, that they are passive aggressive, and maybe the stubbornness sort of comes from that. Like, you can't make me do that.
Maybe. Even the food. I can never remember the names, but whenever I eat it, I was like, "Yep, this is distinctly Mennonite." Like farmer sausage, pierogies.
Yeah, and all the food, of course, all those foods that we in southern Manitoba, anyways, associate with as Mennonite foods are really things that from our history. We lived in the Netherlands, we lived in Prussia, we lived in Russia, Ukraine, Latin America, and we've sort of took foods from all those places and adapted them and tweaked them, and then now those foods have become known as Mennonite foods, but really they're kind of variations on the food from other places.
Or what is it? Raukuchen?
Oh yeah, Raukuchen. That's like how would you describe that? It's a
deep fried bread, or like almost like a biscuit, or like a kind of like a crisp.
I'm not sure the origin of it, if it originated in Europe or not, but it does kind of remind me of Bannock a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Like if you put a little bit of sugar on there, like I know some people put honey on it, kind of like a wafer almost.
The classic thing is Rogers. Sorry, I keep having you're probably hearing those beeps and buzzes from my computer, but
no worries.
The classic thing is Rogers golden syrup. That's what you put on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or Ronnie's sunflower seeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Knockzout. Knockzout. Yeah, that literally means, I think, crack seed. Zoat means seed, and Knock means crack seed.
Yeah. The amount of sunflower seeds Mennonites can go through when you're at a harvest festival.
I know, and the pile that you leave below your lawn chair there or whatever is somehow bigger than what you started. I don't know how that works, but
yeah, it just seems it's an anomaly.
You can't stop though. It is addicting. Like once you start with the sunflower seeds, it's really hard to stop, and you eat it so much that your mouth gets, because they're so salty, right? That your mouth gets all dry or pickled or whatever. I don't know what the word is, but raw. Maybe that's a better word. And but you still can't stop, until the bag is done.
If Andrew could leave only one thing with people, he would like them to know that Mennonites aren't a monolith, and of the approximately 2 million around the world, many aren't like the ones he pokes fun of on the Daily Bonnet, which are those of European descent. If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.